What's going on YouTube? Smaldor here, and this is going to be a basic video on the Baccarat 3-card rule. Now, so that's pretty much going to mostly be useful, again, for beginning and prospective students, for people who want to learn how to deal Baccarat. It is something that's still very useful for players to know as well, that way you know who wins, who loses, things like that. But more than likely, the other players that are playing are going to know for you. So this is geared for dealers. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the basics of the 3-card rule. Highest hand in Baccarat is a natural 9, or 9 really, but natural 9. Doesn't matter what side pulls this on the first 2 cards, player or banker. Game's over. If you pull this. Pull a natural 9, game over. No drawing whatsoever. Same thing with an 8. The only difference is it's 1 less than a 9. So if one side pulls an 8, one side pulls a 9, the 9 will win over the 8. And they are called naturals because there's no draw. Now, player and banker side, depending on when to draw, right? The banker is always dependent on the player side. The player side will act first if they're drawing. So the player will always draw with a 0 through 5. So that means if they're, let's pull it out here. Obviously, if they have a 5, you're going to draw. You have a 4, you're going to draw. Yeah, you have a 0, you're going to draw, It's pretty that simple. You have a 1, you're going to draw. You get the idea. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You will draw. If the player has a 6 or a 7, the player will not draw, but the banker still might. Okay? And we don't really talk about the 8 or 9 because those are naturals, and that just means the game is over, regardless. So now, with the banker side, the banker will draw always on a 0, 1, and 2, not 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. Well, 7 they do not draw. Those will be dependent on what the player draws or what the player does. Okay. So let's pick a hand. It doesn't really matter for the player for the example. This way, the player will always draw, and we'll have. Let me find the right cards. Can I not find a... Okay, there we go. Player has 0, and the banker has a 3. So this is what we call the 38 special. And we call it a 38 special because banker has a 3 total, and the banker will always draw with one exception. And that exception is if the player pulls an 8, pulls the 8 here as the 3rd card. We're supposed to turn it sideways, but just for the video, okay? So this would stop it, and then the game would be over at this point. The game would be over. I guess I could move these cards over. The game would be over, and the player would win. But if it was any other card on a 3, with the banker with a 3, the banker would pull a card. I'm just going to leave these here. Now, with a banker 4. So this is where it gets, in my opinion, very, very easy. The 38 special is kind of like how a lot of dealers memorize, knowing that if the banker has a 3 and the player pulls an 8, that's the only time you stop. And these other ones, banker has a 4, the banker will draw between a 2 and a 7 if that's what the player pulls. So if the player's going to draw, and if the player draws a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, the banker will draw another card. But if they pull an 8, 9, 10, or an ace, there was no draw. I'm going to pull from a different stack and just see what I get here. Okay, it's a 10, which is 0, so the banker would win this instance. But if we pulled, say, a 3, Now, the banker side has to draw another card. Doesn't matter what it is. Banker draws, okay? I don't know why I keep scooping up the cards. I'm using this literally as my example, so. Okay, what about 5? So as with this one, you can think of this, a lot of people think, okay, the draw rule here is the 27, because it's 2 through 7 with the player pulls here is whether or not the banker is going to pull a card. So like, oh, 27. 5, we call this the 47, because now, in this instance, with the banker showing a 5, the banker will only draw if the player pulls a 4, 5, 6, or 7. Okay, so if the player pulls a 4, we will draw. Okay, doesn't matter what it is. You know, for the instance of the situation, for the example. But if, you know, we pulled an 8, no draw. If we pulled a 2, no draw. Next example, 6. Okay, so in this one, the banker still may draw, but the banker now will only draw if the player pulls a 6 or 7. If the player does not pull a 6 or 7, banker does not draw. Okay, so the player pulled this, they pulled a 6. Ooh, now we actually do have to draw a card here. You know, banker better hope that they pulled this 3 right here and they can still win. And let me see if I can find a 7. So in this instance, a 7. Banker will never draw. Banker stands on 7, no matter what, at all times. Okay. Just like player will always stand on 6. Banker will always stand on 7. So these kind of hands, games are going to be immediately over. Again, player 6, 7, never draws. Banker with a 7, never draws. 8 or 9 on both sides, no draws because those are naturals. Hopefully this was helpful. I know you guys can easily go anywhere online and look up cheat sheets with the 3-card rule, but you know, sometimes it helps to have somebody tell you. Anyways, guys, if you watched the video, you liked the video, please hit the like button, subscribe, you know, all that kind of stuff helps me out. Leave any comments down below, criticism, anything, or anything you'd like to see. I specialize in Baccarat, Blackjack, and Roulette. I do know a bunch of other weird carnival games, but I'm not going to really make videos about those because they vary drastically from location to location. These other games are pretty universal. So anyways, guys, thank you for watching.